Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and wow, I got an opportunity today to work on one of my favorite reels that Penn had made. This one is a transition reel. It was actually the last group of reels that were made in the United States that had incorporated a lot of the features that the modern reels today have, and I think it was ahead of its time. It was built in the 1990s, discontinued in 2003, right before Penn shifted its manufacturing over to China. And what is it? It's the Graphite series. It's the GS. The badge is worn off. It's the GS. In this case, it's the largest of the models. This is the 555 GS. And there's a couple of things going on with this reel. It's a high-speed reel. Now, the 555 is the lowest of the high speeds. It's a 5.3 to 1 gear retrieve ratio, where the 25 through the 45 or 6.1s has a very large capacity. It has 600 yards of 20-pound test as a capacity, has wonderful ball bearing structures in it. It has a stainless steel pinion gear, a bronze main gear, a stronger handle blank that's also a leveraged blank. This one's in the leveraged position, but you can move it to a shorter one. It has a star adjuster, but the star adjuster uses the modern ones where the HT100 drags actually act as the eared washers, as opposed to those being the round ones with the metal being the ears. And finally, another piece that it has is it has the centrifugal brakes on this spool, which is very unusual for a large reel like this. So we're going to take this reel apart. We'll show you how to service it. I'm going to have to find screws for the replacements here, but that'll come over time. But we'll show you how to service this. And well, if you have one of these, you'll be able to learn how to do it yourself. If you're just curious about the reel, you'll see some of the other things that have changed in it. Again, it kind of makes it a more modern reel. And well, hang around and enjoy. And if you like these kinds of things, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. That'll help you to know when I'm servicing the reels, and you'll see the videos posted. And if you use that notification button, you'll be among the first to be able to watch that. Right now I'm just trying to dig out the wrench so that we can remove the handle nut. And that's different from some of the earlier conventional Penn reels where you had to use the scalloped handle screw as opposed to a handle nut. But when I take these off, there's a couple of things that I'm considering as I do this work. First off, I want to consider cleaning the reel, but more importantly, I want to have a plan for this reel. I want to understand what I'm going to do with the parts that I take off, where I'm going to put them, and take some pictures along the way so that I don't get stuck. And if I do get stuck, well, I have the pictures as reference guides to it. And well, just in general, just try to take my time, be patient, and, well, as I've said on other occasions, have a sense of humor, because you're never quite sure what's going to go on and what may go wrong. So plan for all of that, and you'll be better off when the time comes for you to service your reel. And that kind of applies to all reels, not just this one. This one's a ball bearing reel. This is a nice one, so it's kind of like the high-speed Jigmaster, the 505, but it has the added convenience of some of those more modern features, like the even higher speed. When we remove the handle, we want to remove the star adjuster next. That simply comes off by turning it in a counterclockwise manner. And then just note underneath that we have a bearing sitting here. We don't have to take that out at this point, but there is a little bit of dirt. I'm just kind of testing to make sure that bearing's running fine, and well, we can continue to go. I'd like to do this in two stages. There's a stage over here where you want to service the reel, because the spool will not come out from that front side. That front side utilizes a back plate to it, and some of the current line of reels, the Wrath and the Rival and the Defiance, kind of use that same setup in terms of not having a bridge in the side plate or on the side plate, but rather it has it as a back plate to the frame itself. I'm going to take a couple of these screws out on this side, and that'll enable us to get to the back side. We'll be able to show you that centrifugal brake and get the spool out, check the bearing back here. So this is your race for the centrifugal brake. I just want to clean that up. We have a different setup here for a click mechanism. You want to make sure that those are extended. I like to test these bearings. Now again, I've had this kind of spinning freely here. I know that it's a nice smooth reel to begin with. I got these reels at an estate sale. And one of the things you want to do if you're at an estate sale is you want to make sure that as you consider purchasing them, that you fully test the reel. Sometimes it's easy to just kind of get caught up in, oh my gosh, there's a reel I've been searching for, and then you don't realize there might be some chips or cracks. I did notice when I got it that it was missing screws, and I did plan to do this as a service video, so I know that once the reel is serviced, the next time I go to order some Penn parts, I can go get the replacement screws and complete that. It's not a customer reel. Actually, I picked up 2 of these at the estate sale. And, I want to share one of them with you because it's something that you want to consider if you're out there purchasing it. Because I noticed on this one that it has the fellow's name and phone number inscribed on the reel seat. Well, that's cool for the fellow. That's cool if it ever gets lost. But if you're thinking about collectability or maybe even reselling the reel, you need to be sensitive that not everybody wants somebody else's name on their fishing reel, and it may detract from the value. Okay, that's a side plate. We want to just oil that bearing. If I didn't do it before, sometimes I get caught up in what I'm saying and don't pay attention to what I've done or not done. Oil that bearing, then we're going to set that into the case. Well, here's an innovation. The innovation is that you have centrifugal brakes on this one. Those are the 2 that come here. They're commonly found on low-profile bait casters, but you don't find them much on a large ocean reel like this. But they're there, so they will help the casting, and this thing does cast beautifully. On this side of the reel, we have a bearing. It's a little bit greased up here. And we're just going to wipe that down. An easy way to test the bearing is just hold the center, make sure that everything is rolling fine. This one is. This is a shielded bearing. It's not a sealed bearing, so I'm going to put some oil on that. Just put that back onto the spool there. I'm just going to set the spool aside. That's big enough that I don't need to worry about losing it. But most of the time I'll take my pieces and parts, I'll put them into a parts tray. I use a fast food container, and that's a way for me to keep track of the pieces and parts. Well, the last thing I want to do before I go over to the other side is clean this reel, because we have the opportunity with the other pieces out to come on in and do a little bit of maintenance there. So I use kitchen scrubbies. I cut them into little pads, and I use Penn rod and reel cleaner. And I guess I bought a variety pack. I got a yellow and a green here. Most of the time, that's going to enable me to have enough of an abrasiveness to clean these pieces off without risking any damage or scraping or marring or the like to the reel themselves. And this is your opportunity. So if you're planning on servicing a reel, just don't jump in and say, I just want to get to that gear side. Just take a little bit extra time. It's worth it in the end, and you'll appreciate that when your reel doesn't fail somewhere down the line. Well, here's another change in that reel itself. This reel has the rod clamp, and that rod clamp has the little addition to it where you can place the hook so that you don't need to worry about damaging the eyelets on your rod or putting it on the bar of here, putting it underneath here. The only thing that's at a disadvantage with this particular reel is that it's lost the 555 moniker. It's worn off, right, or fallen off. I guess it's fallen off, glued on there, and that's acceptable. This reel is 20 years old now. And some folks have told me or expressed that they think this is the reel that was the closest to the Newell reel. And I think in some regards it is. I mean, the technology is different, but it's designed so that it doesn't corrode or rust. How do you do that? You do that with things like this aluminum anodized spool here. You do it with a graphite frame. They have ball bearings in it, which is what Newell was known for. It has a stainless steel pinion and a bronze main gear, so high quality components all around. A little bit different in design, but you know what? It was a nice. This is a nice attempt. We're gonna try this one more time. Now we'll take this spool assembly. We've cleaned all of this up, cleaned the inside of the reel. Bring that back on now. I'm going to remount this plate. When you go to remount the plate, there is a engraved pin here, so that's going to be parallel to the base. Make sure that that snaps in nice. I did use the cleaner on this. There is some UV damage on this one, but it's not terrible. UV damage is going to occur on graphite reels. It's going to occur on Bakelite reels. It's going to occur on most reels that are going to be exposed to the sun. And here on the North Atlantic seaboard, a lot of folks are out in the ocean doing their work, doing their fishing in the lake. And well, those reels are just going to be sitting outside in the sun. Most of the time they're in rod holders or trolling rigs or what have you. And this reel's fine for trolling. It takes 600 yards, a 20-pound test. And if you want to convert that over to braid, it can take 700 or 800 yards of 40-pound braid. So yeah, you can use this for trolling. If you're using it for trolling, it's sitting in a harness or in a rod rack, and well, it's exposed to the sun. Okay. One more screw here. As I mentioned, I'm missing 2 screws. I may or may not have them in the shop. I may have to order them, but I didn't want to delay doing the service video on this one because of that, and I will get those ordered soon enough. All right. So that's the back end of it, and we saw a couple of differences there. We saw the difference in the click mechanism, and we saw the difference in the centrifugal brakes. And we saw kind of a beautiful reel sitting here right now. All right, just notice how quickly and easily that spins, right? Beautiful. All right, let's take the gear side off. This is kind of the business end of the reel. As we mentioned, you got some nice components in here as well. One of the things I like about this, some of the Penn reels and some of the ocean reels that you have actually have a free spool release that goes forward, and to engage, it pulls close to you. And this one is opposite that, which I think all reels should be. But there's 2 things going on here. This is forward to the reel, so it doesn't risk getting bumped. And also, most of the time something gets bumped forward. And if you have a free spool release, like some reels do, where that is in the forward position, you bump it in the free spool, you could lose a fish or snap a line or snarl your line up there. All right, there's one more screw here. We'll be able to remove this. We'll show you how to service the internal pieces here. It's almost odd. I'm doing this reel, and I've just done several reels now. Did a bait caster, I did an old-time fluger reel, I did some other things, and they all have level lines. And it makes you kind of just think twice here about, gee, where's the level line on this one, right? All right. The screws have been removed. Again, take pictures at critical points. That way you know what's going on inside. So when it's time to reinstall, you can do that. We're going to lift this up. And this gives you the opportunity to look inside. We'll show you how to service this, but take a picture right here, right now, because that will help you establish where the location is of the dog. Here's your springs for your yoke. Sometimes I get these reels in because people attempted to repair them, can't figure out why it's not working, and they've mounted the springs on the inside rather than external like this. Just take those pictures and then put those pieces in safe places. All right, this should just lift off now as a gear mechanism. We have our anti-reverse dog here, and most of the time on these pieces you don't need to remove these. You just simply need to clean that. We're going to remove the yoke. That's a stainless steel yoke. Stainless steel pinion gear in the yoke. The main gear is brass. So we're not dealing with any funky kind of metals or alloys or things. And I know that the rage today is we've got halcyon and other kinds of alloys, but we also have a lot of cheap alloys too. So when somebody tells me that the alloy is brass, I kind of at least appreciate that. But this is a different time again. This is 20 years since this reel was made. It was discontinued, I believe, in 2003. Again, this is one of the last of the U.S. made reels before they moved that manufacture to China. And well, if you can find these, I can tell you, you'll know what you're going to get. All right, I'm going to take steel wool here because there is a little bit of pitting on this jack. I just want to make sure I clean that up. Same thing on the back. It's going to slide a lot easier if you can get rid of some of the little pitting and raised portions of the metalwork. Now, you won't be able to restore the metalwork, but you will be able to make it smooth so that it operates correctly. I'm going to remove the pinion gear and I'm going to clean the dirt off of the yoke. Sometimes you can simply wipe it off with a paper towel. That's the piece here. If you're not happy with that, go ahead and use that 4R. That's 0000. It's an ultra fine steel wool. It's a polishing steel wool. And you can use that again just to smooth out some of the roughness if you feel it. On the pinion gear, you want to get rid of the dirt and all grease in there. There's not much in here, but I'm going to use a penetrating oil. In this case, I'm using WD-40. I'm going to pull through on this, and I'm using a bristle brush. You can use a toothbrush if you like, or this is from one of those handy packs that you find at the dollar stores or Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. And you can pull through to make sure all those channels are nice and clear. When you do that, I think we can probably move on quickly because I don't like to leave a lot of pieces of parts laying around. I'm just going to put a quick spray onto the inner case here just to clean that up. And I'll use a combination of things. You saw me use a cotton swab before. I can get into some tighter spaces. You have a plastic bushing on that spool control there. Notice on the eccentric you have two eccentric springs, not one like you'll find on a lot of the older Penn reels. And well, that's just a kind of a fail-safe. It takes the load off of one. All right, we can put this back on right now. To reinstall your pinion gear, get some fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. Not because it's a Penn reel, but because it's a fishing reel, and it's a fishing reel grease. I'll just put a good coating of grease on there. You want to make sure that you get some into that slot where that yoke is going to go as well. And while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, if you leave those in the comment section, I will try to answer those questions for you. All right, we're going to just get that straight up. I'm going to bring this in. And remember, this one's reversed. So when you're going to go put this on, because you're on a bridge here, the slot is going to go to the spool, and the gear side of it is going to come out. So it'll go on like this, but before you put this on, you need to work the jack underneath. I want to do the same thing here. A little bit of grease onto the back side where it's going to slide along the case. You can put a little bit on the front as well. Sit that into the slot, just like that. And then we can bring that yoke assembly down after we manage to put that over the two sides. Turn that pinion gear to make sure that it seats onto the spool. When we go to reinstall this case, you're going to need to put the stud from the eccentric lever, the stud here, it's going to need to merge with this hole in the jack. So what I like to do here is bring this down a little bit. Like that, just so I know that it's at the top. And when we go to set this, we'll make sure this is at the top as well, which is at the top right now. Okay, let's pay attention now to the main gear service. Underneath we have that star, and we have a washer. Pull up on your anti-reverse dog, seat your click ratchet, and that's got a triangle on it, so you need to make sure that it's meshing with the gear shaft. It's meshed with the gear shaft now, and you'll see how the anti-reverse dog works now. It's going to be a click. This is not an instant anti-reverse reel. You can have a click like that, and when you go to stop, it's going to have your dog engage with the ridge. Okay. As I mentioned, this is one of the first of the reels. It seems like most of the modern reels now use the drag washer as the eared washer as opposed to the previous setup with the metals. We're going to clean off the main gear. We're going to do the same thing with this brass main gear that we did with the pinion gear. We'll flood it with the penetrating oil. Let it sit. Find our bristle brush, pull through, and I put that paper towel under here so that as I pull it through, it kind of sprays the dirt onto the towel and it doesn't transfer it back into the gear. This is the best way to assure that your gears are going to mesh properly and that you won't have any hiccups or stutter steps, if you will, by having clogged grease or dirt or something in those tracks. Again, a good coating. You don't have to get grease in every tooth because your pinion gear is a different size than the main gear. You will have the ability to spread that grease as the teeth mesh at different places, different times. Okay, that one's in good condition. I'm going to merge that right back on now. You get a little bit of dirt inside the piece here, so we're going to go do that. Clean that up nice and shiny. Bring that back on and merge that with your pinion gear. Next up is to service the drag washers. And I use drag grease. I use Cal's Universal Drag Grease. If you don't have that, don't run out and get it. You can use your fishing reel grease if you like. I dip my washers in there, and I like to use my gloved hand to spread the grease around, and then a paper towel to wipe off any excess. If you leave the excess in there, it's just going to squeeze out. What you're using this drag grease for is to keep these drags fresh so that they don't dry out. This is a 6-washer set, so you alternate the fabric washers with the metal washers. So we're going to do this 2 more times. How do you know you have enough grease on your drag washers? If you can see the cross hatching through there, you have enough grease. If you can't see the cross hatching, you have too much. Second of the metal washers after the second of those fabrics. This is the third of the fabric now. Just do the same. And in this case, I don't even need to wipe that off. I got it right. That's something that just comes with experience. We have one more metal washer. Clean that off. Bring that on. We have a cap washer. And again, you took pictures, right? So that if you lost where these pieces and parts go, you know. This is our spacer. And that is our setup for the gear. The only thing you need to do now, we have 2 things. We have our springs. And then we have our side plate. Okay, make sure on your side plate that the stud is up. Bring that over. You may knock this bearing out, not a problem. And then make sure that you have that stud. Now I have the stud because I can tell that the handle shaft is turning. And then bring it back to free spool, make sure that it doesn't turn. And well, the only thing we have to do here is put the the little cowl back on. And one of the things that will enable you to do that easily is take the screw from the bottom, put that one in. That way you can release your hand pressure, not worry about the side plate coming loose. Now there should be 2 screws there. We're missing one, as I noted, and I will be able to go ahead and get that next parts order out for a Penn reel. Again, I have a little bit of cleaner left over on that scrubby pad, so now's a good time to clean the side plate we weren't able to do. And to get that metal ring back in there, just bring your free spool lever up a little bit. That'll enable you to bring that around. And now we have the 3 screws. We know one's missing for this side as well. Okay, done with the grease. I can get that out of the way so you have a better view of what's going on here. And again, if you're still with me, I do want to encourage you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, again, use that notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting. Let's take the other 2 screws that I have. I'm going to anchor the 2 on the bottom here. That way I don't have to worry about that ring getting caught on something and breaking off. Put one more up here, and we'll just note that we're missing the 2 that have to be ordered. I've already done that. Okay, I may or may not have oiled. My memory from time to time slips a little bit, but we'll just put another coating of oil onto that bearing, and we can bring our star adjuster over. And again, I can take the opportunity to clean some of the film and grime off of this. It's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of sea salt on there. It's a little bit of the spray, a little bit of who knows what from landing fish, bait, whatever. Just take the time to clean it while you have it off the reel. That way you can avoid your problems later. There's a little bit of grease in here. You can go ahead and put that back on. Make sure this goes on square when you do this. If you're having any resistance at all, it may not be going on square. Just take a moment and check it. We'll bring that back on. We have the little tension washer that goes on next. We have our handle. This one was in the leverage position. You can shorten the throw of the handle by using the other one. I kind of like it in that leverage position. Got a lot of line on this reel, and you may need a little bit of a break. Doesn't make the reel go any faster when you put the handle out there, but it makes the turning a little bit easier. Next up then, we're going to put the handle nut back on, just like we were doing with the star adjuster. Make sure that the nut goes on nice and free and easy and square. You don't want to risk stripping either the nut or the handle assembly, and not on square. So this just takes a moment. While I have that moment, I want to thank our police, fire, safety, rescue, all of our first responders, and the folks dedicated to public safety. I appreciate their efforts day in and day out and their career choices. All right, when we go to put the nut back on, generally if the point of the nut is pointing to that screw hole, your nut cap will fit and your screw will go right in. Let's see how we did. Well, there you go. Sometimes you win. One more lubrication point. There's a little port in here. Use an oiler. Put some oil inside the handle. It still sounds like it's a little noisy. We're going to use some penetrating oil right at the seam there, and that'll work itself in, and there you go, no more noise. Okay, well, what did we do? We showed you how the reel was made. We talked a little bit about some of the unique features and functions in this reel. I told you that while you're at this point with the reel, you want to clean it up, take advantage of the spool being out of there and the light to clean all of your pieces and parts, make it look attractive. We showed you the setup for the reel and how it works. We kind of talked about it being one of the last of the USA made mid-size reels, so like the Fathom and the Squalls and reels like that. They're currently made in China. This is one of the last of the U.S., and it kind of mirrors what those Fathoms and Squalls took their notes from in this. Beautiful reel all around. We noticed that well, you got those ball bearings. Spins nice and free and easy. We also mentioned that we have a brake mechanism on here, a centrifugal brake with those two brake bars that will help in adjusting the casting. We didn't mention that you do have a cast control on the spool here as well. Tightening or loosening it will help with the speed of the spool. If I loosen it out, it probably should just fly. Yeah, look at that, right? So that's all about how you prefer to use it and cast with it. We showed you the differences in the drags, how the drags are the eared washers in this situation, as opposed to the metals in some of the previous editions like the Jigmaster. All right, we're in free spool. We've already showed you this turns nice and free and easy. It's quiet. It's a nice feeling reel. It's not that terribly heavy. It's only about 22 ounces. That's for a very large reel, so that's not too bad. And well, let's just give it a crank. Showed you how that anti-reverse dog works, and that's why you got the click, 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 click that stops it. We did mention this is not an instant anti-reverse reel. And this one's ready to go fishing and will go fishing for a long time to come. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. I want to thank you for watching. I want to encourage you to subscribe. I want to wish you the best of fishing and the fast friendships that fishing can develop. And most of all, have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.